A morning like any other, Jenny Hayes checked her reflection one last time in the employee bathroom mirror of the Riverside Grill. Her blonde hair was neatly pulled back in a ponytail, her white shirt pressed and spotless, her black apron tied perfectly at the waist. She looked professional, composed, ready for another shift. What she did not look like was someone who had been up until 2 a.m. studying for her nursing exam, while her feet still ached from yesterday's double shift at 24. Jenny had mastered the art of looking put together when she felt like falling apart. It was a survival skill she had developed over the past 3 years, ever since her father passed away and left her mother, Linda, drowning in medical debt. The Riverside Grill was not just a job, it was her lifeline. The tips were good, the hours flexible enough to accommodate her nursing classes, and the location in downtown Seattle meant a steady stream of wealthy customers who could afford to be generous. She took a deep breath, rolled her shoulders back, and pushed through the swinging doors into the main dining room. The lunch rush was beginning. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, casting golden patterns across the white tablecloths and gleaming silverware. The restaurant was beautiful in an understated way, elegant without being pretentious. Or at least, that was how it appeared to people who did not work there. The storm arrives, table 12 just sat down, announced Tommy, the head waiter, barely glancing up from his tablet. Clarissa Beaumont and her lunch party. 3 guests. She specifically requested the corner booth. Jenny felt her stomach drop. Clarissa Beaumont was a regular customer, and she was absolutely terrible. The wife of a prominent real estate developer, Clarissa treated service staff like they were invisible at best and incompetent at worst. She had gotten 2 waiters fired in the past year over minor mistakes. Everyone on staff dreaded serving her table. "I can take it," offered Rachel, another waitress, seeing the look on Jenny's face. "No, it is fine," Jenny said, forcing a smile. "I can handle her." She could not afford to look weak. Could not afford to let others take the difficult tables. Tips from people like Clarissa, as horrible as she was, helped pay for her mother's medications. So Jenny grabbed her notepad, plastered on her best customer service smile, and approached table 12. Clarissa Beaumont was exactly as Jenny remembered from previous encounters. Tall, immaculately dressed in a cream suit that probably cost more than Jenny's entire wardrobe. With platinum hair styled in a perfect bob, her companions were 2 other well-dressed women who looked like they spent their days shopping and their evenings at charity galas. "Good afternoon, ladies," Jenny said warmly. "Welcome to Riverside Grill. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Clarissa looked up with an expression of mild annoyance, as if Jenny's existence was an inconvenience. "Finally, we have been sitting here for at least 3 minutes. I will have the Pinot Grigio, the 2019 vintage, not whatever cheap substitute you people try to pass off." "Of course," Jenny said, keeping her smile in place. "And for you, ma'am?" she asked the woman to Clarissa's right. The accident the drink orders were complicated. Specific wines, particular temperatures, precise garnishes. Jenny wrote everything down carefully, double-checked with each guest, and headed to the bar. She was extra cautious carrying the tray back. 4 glasses of wine, each costing more than her hourly wage. The tray was heavier than expected. But she had done this hundreds of times before. What she had not accounted for was the small child, who suddenly darted out from behind a nearby table, chasing a dropped crayon. Jenny swerved to avoid the kid. Her weight shifted, and time seemed to slow down. The tray tilted. The glasses slid. And before she could correct her balance, all 4 glasses of expensive wine cascaded directly onto Clarissa Beaumont's cream suit. The restaurant went silent. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. Clarissa stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. Her face was bright red, her designer suit completely drenched in dark red wine. "You stupid, clumsy fool," she shrieked, her voice echoing off the walls. "Do you have any idea how much this suit costs?" "I am so sorry," Jenny stammered, grabbing napkins from the nearest table. "It was an accident. Let me help clean it. Do not touch me." Clarissa slapped the napkins out of Jenny's hands. "You have done enough damage, you incompetent little nobody. Look at me. This is ruined. Do you have any idea who I am?" Jenny felt her face burning with humiliation. The entire restaurant was watching. Other diners had their phones out, probably recording the scene. Her hands were shaking as she bent down to pick up the fallen glasses. "Ma'am, please, I sincerely apologize." She tried again, her voice cracking. "The restaurant will cover all cleaning costs, and your meal today will be complimentary. The rescue that is not good enough." Clarissa's voice got louder. "I want you fired. Immediately. Where is the manager? I want this incompetent waitress fired right now." Tommy appeared, looking panicked. "Mrs. Beaumont, I assure you, we will handle this. Please, let me get you some towels, and we can discuss compensation." "I do not want compensation. I want her gone." Clarissa pointed at Jenny with a shaking finger. "People like her should not be working in establishments like this. She clearly does not have the intelligence or grace required. She probably cannot even afford to replace this suit on her pathetic salary." Tears were burning in Jenny's eyes now. She hated crying in public, hated appearing weak, but the humiliation was overwhelming. Every cruel word was landing like a physical blow. And the worst part was that Clarissa was right about one thing. Jenny could never afford to replace that suit. She could barely afford her own rent. Actually, a deep, calm voice cut through the chaos. "She is with me." Everyone turned. A man had stood up from a table near the window. He was tall, probably over 6 feet, with dark hair and striking blue eyes. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit that screamed money, but not in the flashy way Clarissa's outfit did. This was understated wealth, the kind that did not need to announce itself. He walked toward them with confident, measured steps. Jenny had never seen him before, but something about his presence commanded attention. The entire restaurant watched as he approached. "Excuse me?" Clarissa said, her anger momentarily replaced by confusion. The stranger reached Jenny's side and, to her complete shock, put his arm around her shoulders. "This is my fiancée," he said calmly, looking directly at Clarissa. "And I would appreciate it if you would stop yelling at her." "Shh." Jenny's mind went blank. "Fiancé? What was happening?" "Your what?" Clarissa sputtered. "My fiancé," the man repeated, his voice remaining perfectly calm but with an edge of steel underneath. "Jenny and I have been engaged for 6 months. She works here because she wants to, not because she has to. And your behavior toward her is completely unacceptable." He turned to Tommy. "I believe the lady would like the cost of her suit covered. I am sure the restaurant can arrange that. In the meantime, perhaps it would be best if she and her party were seated elsewhere, away from my fiancé's section." There was something in his tone that brooked no argument. Tommy nodded quickly. "Of course, sir, Mrs. Beaumont. If you would follow me, we will get you taken care of immediately." Clarissa looked between the stranger and Jenny, her face a mixture of shock and barely suppressed rage. But the man's presence, his obvious wealth and authority, had deflated her tirade. She allowed Tommy to guide her away, shooting poisonous looks over her shoulder. Aftermath and questions the moment Clarissa was out of sight. The stranger removed his arm from Jenny's shoulders and stepped back slightly, giving her space. "Are you all right?" he asked, and his voice was much gentler now. Jenny stared at him, her mind racing. "Who are you?" she managed to ask. "Daniel Cross," he said, extending his hand. "And I apologize for the presumption. But I could not stand by and watch that woman abuse you." Daniel Cross. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but Jenny could not place it. She shook his hand automatically, still in shock. "Why did you say I was your fiancé?" "Because people like Clarissa Beaumont only respect money and status," Daniel said simply. "If you were just a waitress, she would have gotten you fired. But the fiancé of someone wealthy? That gives you protection, however temporary." Jenny realized he was right. Clarissa had backed down the moment Daniel claimed Jenny as his. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I do not know what to say. That was incredibly kind, and you did not have to do that for a complete stranger. You are welcome." Daniel smiled, and it transformed his face from merely handsome to genuinely warm. "Though I am afraid I may have created a problem. If word gets around that you are engaged to Daniel Cross, you might face some awkward questions." "Daniel Cross," Jenny repeated, the name finally clicking. "Wait, Daniel Cross? Of Cross Technologies? The tech company. Guilty, he admitted. Cross Technologies was one of Seattle's biggest success stories. A company that developed medical software and had revolutionized hospital record systems across the country. Daniel Cross was not just wealthy, he was billionaire wealthy. Jenny felt dizzy. A billionaire had just claimed her as his fiancée in front of half of Seattle's social elite. This was going to become gossip within hours. "Oh no," she said quietly. "This is going to be a nightmare," maybe Daniel said. Or maybe it could be an opportunity. He pulled a business card from his wallet and handed it to her. "I know this is strange, but I have a proposition for you. When you get off work tonight, would you be willing to meet me for coffee? I promise I am not crazy. I just think we might be able to help each other." Jenny looked at the card, then back at Daniel's face. He seemed sincere, not threatening. And after what he had just done for her, she felt she at least owed him a conversation. "Okay," she said. "I get off at 6. Perfect. There is a coffee shop 2 blocks down called Morning Brew. I will be there at 6:30. He gave her another smile, returned to his table to collect his things, and left the restaurant. Jenny stood there, holding his business card, feeling like she had just stepped into someone else's life. Around her, the restaurant slowly returned to normal, but she could feel the eyes on her, hear the whispers. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "What just happened?" "You are engaged to Daniel Cross." Jenny did not have an answer. She did not know what had just happened. All she knew was that her ordinary, difficult, predictable life had suddenly become very, very complicated, and for reasons she could not quite explain. She was curious to hear what Daniel Cross wanted to propose. Coffee and consequences, Jenny spent the rest of her shift in a daze. Every customer seemed to look at her differently, whispers following her from table to table. Rachel cornered her in the kitchen during a lull, eyes wide with excitement and curiosity. "You have to tell me everything," Rachel insisted, gripping Jenny's arm. "How long have you been dating Daniel Cross? Why did you keep it secret? Is he as rich as they say?" "Rachel, I cannot talk about this right now," Jenny said, pulling away gently. "I need to focus on finishing my shift without dumping food on anyone else." But focusing was nearly impossible. Her mind kept replaying the scene. The humiliation of Clarissa's attack, the shock of Daniel's intervention. The weight of his arm around her shoulders, the calm authority in his voice. And now, she was supposed to meet him for coffee to discuss some mysterious proposition. What could a billionaire possibly want from her? By the time 6 o'clock arrived, Jenny's nerves were stretched thin. She changed out of her work clothes in the bathroom, pulling on jeans and a simple blue sweater. She studied her reflection and barely recognized the anxious woman staring back. Her hazel eyes were wide with uncertainty, her hands trembling slightly as she applied lip gloss. Morning Brew was exactly 2 blocks away, just as Daniel had said. It was a cozy place, all exposed brick and mismatched furniture. It's a kind of independent coffee shop that Seattle was famous for. The smell of freshly ground beans and cinnamon hit her as she walked through the door. Daniel was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee in front of him. He had changed too, now wearing dark jeans and a gray sweater that made his blue eyes even more striking. He looked up when she entered and smiled. "The proposition, I took the liberty of ordering you a latte," Daniel said as she approached. "But if you prefer something else, I can get it changed." "A latte is perfect. Thank you." Jenny slid into the seat across from him, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. "So, you said you had a proposition, right to business? I appreciate that." Daniel leaned back in his chair, studying her for a moment. "First, let me apologize again for putting you in an awkward position today. I acted impulsively, and I realize that may have created complications for you." "You saved me from getting fired," Jenny said honestly. "I am grateful, even if the method was unconventional." "The thing is," Daniel continued, "my impulsive claim might have actually solved a problem for both of us. Can I ask you something personal? Are you currently in a relationship?" Jenny blinked at the directness. "No, I barely have time to sleep, let alone date." "Good, neither am I." He took a sip of his coffee. "Here is my situation. My grandmother, Margaret, is 83 years old. She is the most important person in my life. She raised me after my parents died when I was 12. She is also convinced that I am going to die alone and miserable because I work too much and never date. Jenny could not help but smile slightly. Sounds familiar? My mother worries about the same thing. For the past year, my grandmother has been introducing me to women she thinks would be suitable. Daughters of her friends, women from prominent families, that sort of thing. They are all perfectly nice, but none of them are interested in me as a person. They are interested in Daniel Cross, the billionaire. That must be difficult, Jenny said, and she meant it. It is exhausting, Daniel admitted. And my grandmother's health has not been great lately. Her doctor says stress is making things worse, and I know she stresses about me being alone. Then, today happened, and I said you were my fiancé, and I realized something. What if you were? Jenny nearly choked on her latte. What? A business arrangement, not really, Daniel said quickly, holding up his hands. I am proposing a business arrangement. A fake engagement. Temporary, with clear terms and boundaries. You would pretend to be my fiancé for 6 months. In return, I would pay you enough to cover your mother's medical bills and your nursing school tuition. Jenny stared at him, her mind reeling. You want to pay me to pretend to be engaged to you? I know it sounds crazy, Daniel said. But think about it. After today, the rumor is already out there. People saw us together, heard me claim you as my fiancé. By tomorrow, it will be all over social media. We can either let it die as a strange misunderstanding, or we can use it to both get what we need. And what do you need? Jenny asked, trying to process this surreal conversation. I need my grandmother to stop worrying about me. I need to stop wasting time on pointless dates with women who only see dollar signs. And honestly, after today, I think you and I could actually pull this off convincingly. Jenny's mind was spinning. The amount of money he was casually offering would change her life. Her mother could get the treatment she needed without Jenny working herself to exhaustion. She could focus on school without panic attacks about how to pay for next semester. But pretending to be engaged to someone she did not know? Living a lie for 6 months? Why me? She asked. You could hire an actress, someone experienced in this sort of thing. Because you are real, Daniel said simply. You are not impressed by money. You did not even recognize my name at first. My grandmother would see through an actress in 5 minutes. But you are genuine. You work hard, you care about your family, you have pride and dignity. Those are things she would respect. Meeting Margaret, I need to think about this, Jenny said, her head spinning. Of course, take all the time you need. Daniel pulled out his phone. Can I show you something first? He turned the screen toward her. It was a photo of an elderly woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, sitting in a garden surrounded by roses. This is my grandmother, Margaret. She is the reason I built Cross Technologies. She believed in me when no one else did. She mortgaged her house to give me startup capital when I was 22 and had nothing but an idea. Jenny looked at the photo, saw the genuine love in Daniel's eyes as he talked about his grandmother. This was not just about convenience for him. This was about family. She has heart disease, Daniel continued quietly. Last month, she had a minor stroke. The doctors say she is stable, but stress could trigger another one. Every time she talks about me being alone, I can see the worry in her face. I just want to give her peace of mind, Jenny. I want her to believe I will be happy and taken care of. Jenny understood that feeling intimately. Her own mother worried constantly, tried to hide it, but Jenny could see the stress lines deepening. Around Linda's eyes every time another medical bill arrived. If I agreed, Jenny said slowly, what would the terms be exactly? Daniel's face brightened slightly. We would need to spend time together in public, attend some family functions, be seen as a couple, nothing inappropriate, just hand-holding. Casual affection, the kind of things engaged couples do. You would meet my grandmother, some business associates, friends. In private, we would be ourselves. No expectations beyond the agreement for 6 months. 6 months. Then we have a mutual, amicable breakup. We realize we wanted different things, parted as friends, no hard feelings. You walk away with enough money to finish nursing school debt-free and take care of your mother. I get to make my grandmother happy in what might be her final years. Jenny bit her lip thinking. It was insane. Absolutely insane. But also in a strange way it made sense. And the money would literally change her and her mother's lives. I want to meet her first, Jenny heard herself say. Your grandmother. Before I decide anything, I want to meet her. Daniel's smile was genuine and relieved. Really? If I am going to pretend to be engaged to you, I need to know if I can actually convince her. And I need to see if this is something I can do without feeling terrible about myself. That is fair. Are you free tomorrow afternoon? I visit her every Sunday. You could come with me tomorrow. Jenny had the day off from both work and school. She could actually do this. Okay? Tomorrow. They exchanged phone numbers, and Daniel insisted on driving her home. His car was exactly what she expected, a sleek, black sedan that probably cost more than her mother's house. The drive to her neighborhood was quiet. Both of them lost in thought. A night of questions when they pulled up outside her small, modest home. Daniel looked at her seriously. Jenny, I meant what I said. No pressure. If you meet my grandmother tomorrow and decide this is not for you, I will completely understand. The offer stands, but only if you are comfortable. Thank you, Jenny said, for today, for this conversation, for being honest. I will see you tomorrow. She got out of the car and walked to her front door, aware of his headlights illuminating her path until she was safely inside. Through the window, she watched him drive away, then leaned against the closed door and exhaled slowly. Jenny, is that you? Her mother called from the living room. Linda Hayes was 56, but looked older, worn down by years of illness and worry. She had been a nurse herself before rheumatoid arthritis made it impossible to continue working. Now she spent her days in pain, trying to hide how much the medications cost, how much she worried about burdening her daughter. Hi, Mom, Jenny. Walked into the living room and sat on the couch next to her mother. I need to tell you about something strange that happened today. She told the whole story. From the wine incident to Daniel's rescue to the coffee shop proposition. Linda listened without interrupting, her expression moving from shock to concern to something that looked almost like hope. This man wants to pay you to pretend to be his fiancée, Linda said slowly when Jenny finished. Yes, and he seems legitimate. It's not dangerous or unstable. He seems very genuine, actually. And Mom, the amount he is offering would cover everything. Your treatments, my school, everything. Linda took her daughter's hand. Jenny, I do not want you doing something that makes you uncomfortable because of me. We will find another way. There is no other way, Jenny said gently. Not one that does not involve me working 3 jobs and dropping out of school. Mom, I want to do this. Not just for the money, though that matters, but because I think I can actually help him. His grandmother sounds like she needs peace of mind, just like you do. Maybe I can give that to both of you. Linda studied her daughter's face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. If you are sure, but promise me you will be careful. Rich men sometimes have complicated lives, I promise. Jenny hugged her mother. I am meeting his grandmother tomorrow. It's down after that, I will decide for sure. That night, lying in bed, Jenny could not sleep. She kept thinking about Daniel's blue eyes, the gentleness in his voice when he talked about his grandmother, the way he had defended her without hesitation. This was not how her life was supposed to go. She was supposed to finish nursing school, get a good job, take care of her mother, live a simple, honest life. But maybe, just maybe, this crazy scheme could give her the means to do exactly that. Her phone buzzed. Text from Daniel. Thank you for considering this. Sleep well. Jenny smiled in the darkness and texted back. See you tomorrow. Sunday with Margaret. The next afternoon, Daniel picked her up at 2 o'clock. Jenny had agonized over what to wear, finally settling on a simple green dress that was nice without being too formal. Daniel nodded approvingly when she got in the car. You look perfect. Grandmother loves green. Are you nervous? Jenny asked as they drove. Terrified, Daniel admitted with a laugh. I have never introduced anyone to her as my girlfriend, let alone my fiancée. She is going to ask a million questions. What have you told her about me? Nothing yet. Wanted to see if you would agree first. I thought we could say we have been dating quietly for a few months and just decided to make it official. Margaret Cross lived in a beautiful house in the suburbs, surrounded by the rose gardens Jenny had seen in the photo. As they walked up the path, Daniel took Jenny's hand. The touch was electric, surprising them both. "Just practicing," Daniel said softly. But he did not let go. The woman who answered the door was smaller than Jenny expected. Barely 5 feet tall, but her presence filled the space. She had sharp, intelligent eyes that immediately focused on Jenny with undisguised curiosity. "Well," Margaret said, looking between them and their joined hands. "This is an interesting development, T and Truth's grandmother. This is Jenny Hayes," Daniel said, and Jenny could hear the nervousness in his voice. "Jenny, my grandmother, Margaret Cross." "It is wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Cross," Jenny said, extending her free hand since Daniel still held the other. Margaret shook it firmly, still studying Jenny's face. Come in. I just made tea." "Daniel, you failed to mention you were bringing a guest." "It was a surprise," Daniel said. Shooting Jenny an apologetic look, they settled in Margaret's living room, a cozy space filled with books and family photos. Margaret poured tea with steady hands, her eyes never leaving Jenny for long. "So, Jenny Hayes," Margaret said, handing her a cup. "Tell me about yourself." Jenny had prepared for this, but sitting under Margaret's penetrating gaze made her rehearsed answers feel hollow. Instead, she found herself being honest. "I am 24. I work as a waitress at Riverside Grill, and I am studying to be a nurse. I live with my mother, who has rheumatoid arthritis. My father passed away 3 years ago." "A nurse," Margaret said with approval. "Noble profession. I was a nurse myself for 40 years. What made you choose it?" "My mother," Jenny said simply. Watching her struggle with her illness, seeing how the good nurses made such a difference in her care, "I want to be that person for other families." Something in Margaret's expression softened. "And how did you meet my grandson?" This was the moment. Jenny glanced at Daniel, who gave her an encouraging nod. "At the restaurant where I work, he came in for lunch a few months ago. We started talking, and he asked for my number. I honestly did not know who he was at first." "You did not know he was Daniel Cross of Cross Technologies?" Margaret's eyebrow raised.
"Oh, ma'am.
"I do not really follow the tech industry, and I do not pay much attention to society news. I just knew he was kind and made me laugh." Margaret smiled for the first time. "Good answer. Do you know how many women have pursued my grandson for his money? It is nauseating. Tell me, Jenny, what do you think of him?" The question caught Jenny off guard. She looked at Daniel, really looked at him, remembering yesterday's rescue. His honesty in the coffee shop, the gentleness when he talked about his grandmother, and she realized something surprising. She actually liked him. "I think he is lonely," Jenny said quietly. "I think he works very hard and carries a lot of responsibility, and people see his success, but not the cost of it. I think he is kinder than he lets people see, and he loves his grandmother very much." The room fell silent. Daniel was staring at her with an expression she could not quite read. Margaret set down her teacup very carefully. "Well," the older woman said, her voice thick with emotion, "that is the most honest answer anyone has ever given me about my grandson." She looked at Daniel. "I like her. Do not mess this up." Daniel laughed, the tension breaking. "I will do my best, grandmother." They spent the next 2 hours talking, and Jenny found herself genuinely enjoying Margaret's company. The older woman was sharp, funny, and clearly adored her grandson. She told stories about Daniel as a child, showed Jenny embarrassing photos, and asked thoughtful questions about Jenny's nursing studies as they were leaving. Margaret pulled Jenny aside while Daniel went to get the car. "I need to ask you something," Margaret said, her voice quiet but firm. "Are you really in love with my grandson?" Jenny's breath caught. Those sharp eyes saw too much. "Mrs. Cross, I care about Daniel very much. That is not what I asked." Jenny made a decision in that moment. "No," she said honestly. "Not yet. But I think I could be. He is a good man, and I admire him. Love takes time." Margaret studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "An honest answer. I appreciate that, Jenny. My grandson has not let anyone close in years. Whatever happens between you two, Thank you for trying. In the car on the way home, Daniel was quiet. Finally, he said, "That thing you said about me being lonely. Did you mean it?" "Yes," Jenny said. "Was I wrong?" "No, you were exactly right." Pulled up outside her house and turned to face her. "So, what do you think? Can you do this?" Jenny thought about Margaret's kindness, Daniel's honesty, her mother's medical bills, her own exhaustion. She thought about the strange connection she felt to this man she barely knew. And she thought about the fact that, against all logic, she actually wanted to help him. "Yes," she said. "I can do this. Let us be fake engaged." Daniel's smile was brilliant. "Really? You are sure?" "I am sure. But we need to set clear ground rules. Write everything down. Make this official." "Agreed. Tomorrow night, dinner at my place. We will draft a contract. Cover every detail. Make sure we are both protected." Jenny nodded, feeling like she was stepping off a cliff into open air. "Okay. Tomorrow night." As she walked into her house, her mother was waiting. "Well, we are engaged," Jenny said, and then started laughing at the absurdity of it all. "For 6 months, I am engaged to a billionaire I just met yesterday." Linda looked worried. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" "No," Jenny admitted. "But I am doing it anyway. Mom, this could change everything for us." That night, Jenny lay awake again, but this time it was not anxiety keeping her up. It was anticipation. Tomorrow, her fake engagement would become official. And 6 months from now, she would walk away with enough money to change her life. What she did not know, could not know, was that 6 months from now, walking away would be the hardest thing she ever had to do. Building the foundation, the next month passed in a whirlwind. Carefully orchestrated moments and unexpected genuine connections. Jenny and Daniel had spent their first official evening drafting what Daniel jokingly called the engagement contract. It outlined everything, from public appearance requirements to financial compensation to the breakup timeline. "This feels very unromantic," Jenny had said. Reading through the legal language, "Would you prefer I got down on one knee with a fake proposal?" Daniel had teased, and they both laughed, easing the awkwardness. But despite the contract and the pretense, something real was developing. It started small. Daniel's habit of bringing her coffee before her early shifts, Jenny's tendency to text him funny stories from the restaurant, the way his face lit up when he saw her, even when there was no one around to perform for. They fell into a comfortable routine. Twice a week, they had dinner together. Sometimes at nice restaurants where they would be seen. Sometimes at his penthouse apartment where they could just be themselves. Jenny met his business partners, attended a gala at his side, smiled for photographs that appeared in society pages. "You are a natural," Daniel said one evening, after a particularly long charity event. They were in his car, Jenny's feet aching from heels she was not used to wearing. "Everyone believes we are the real thing. Maybe we are getting too good at this," Jenny said. Slipping off her shoes with a sigh of relief, Daniel glanced at her, something unreadable in his expression. "Is that a bad thing?" The shift was week 5 when things changed. Jenny's mother Linda had an emergency. Her arthritis flared so badly she could barely move, the pain making her cry out. Jenny called an ambulance, her hands shaking as she held her mother's hand in the back of the vehicle at the hospital. Waiting for test results, Jenny sat alone in the harsh fluorescent lighting of the waiting room. She had not called anyone, had not wanted to bother Rachel this late, had not even thought about reaching out. Her phone rang. "Daniel, hey," she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Where are you?" His voice was urgent. "I have been calling for 2 hours. You missed our dinner reservation." Jenny had completely forgotten. "Daniel, I am so sorry. My mom had an emergency. We are at Seattle General. I am on my way. You do not have to come. This is not part of our agreement." "Jenny," his voice was firm but gentle. "I am coming. Text me which floor." He arrived 20 minutes later, still in his business suit, slightly out of breath like he had run from the parking garage. Without a word, he pulled Jenny into a hug. She had not realized how much she needed it until that moment. She collapsed against his chest, and let herself cry. "It is going to be okay," he murmured into her hair. "She is going to be okay." Daniel stayed with her through the night. Doctor finally came with good news that Linda's flare-up could be managed with adjusted medication, and she could go home in the morning. Daniel was the one who asked all the questions Jenny was too exhausted to form. He drove them both home at dawn, carrying Linda into the house despite her protests. He made breakfast while Jenny got her mother settled. And when he finally left, pressing a kiss to Jenny's forehead that felt nothing like pretend, Jenny realized something terrifying. She was falling in love with him. Complications and confessions, you are in trouble. Rachel said 2 days later during their shift at the restaurant. They were in the kitchen, supposedly checking inventory, but really Rachel was interrogating Jenny about her relationship. "What do you mean?" "I mean you are falling for him, for real. I can see it all over your face." Jenny could not deny it. "It is complicated, Rachel. Love usually is. Does he feel the same way? I do not know." "How do you tell the difference between someone pretending really well and someone actually feeling something?" Rachel squeezed her shoulder. "You ask him, Jenny. You actually communicate?" But Jenny was scared. Scared of breaking their agreement. Scared of making things awkward. Scared of finding out Daniel was just an excellent actor and she was a fool falling for the performance. The crisis came during week 8. They were at another family dinner at Margaret's house. Daniel's aunt and uncle were visiting, along with their daughter Heather, who had apparently been in love with Daniel since they were teenagers. Heather was everything Jenny was not. Sophisticated, polished, from the right family, with the right connections. She made subtle digs all evening, comments about how surprising Daniel's choice was, how different Jenny was from his usual type. "So, Jenny," Heather said over dessert, her smile sharp, "how does it feel knowing you won the lottery, snagging Seattle's most eligible bachelor?" The table went quiet. Margaret's expression turned thunderous, but before she could speak, Daniel did. "Actually, Heather, I am the one who won the lottery." His voice was calm, but had an edge that made everyone pay attention. Jenny could have said no when I asked her out. She had every reason to. But she gave me a chance, and every single day since then, I have been grateful for it. He turned to Jenny, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. She is kind, hardworking, genuine, funny, smart, and she sees me as a person, not a bank account. So yes, I absolutely won the lottery. Later, in his car outside her house, Jenny finally found her courage. "Did you mean what you said at dinner?" "Every word." "Daniel, I need to tell you something. This arrangement, this fake engagement, it stopped being fake for me a while ago." He turned to face her fully, his expression intense. I think from the moment you showed up at the hospital, maybe even before that. I do not know exactly when it happened, but it did. I have feelings for you, real feelings. I know that was not part of the agreement, so if you want to end this early, I will understand." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed softly. "Jenny, I have been in love with you since week 2. Her heart stopped. "What? Week 2? We were having dinner at that little Thai place you love. You were telling me about this patient you helped during your clinical rotation. Your whole face lit up talking about it, and I realized I wanted to see that light every day for the rest of my life. I have been pretending to pretend ever since." "Why did you not say anything?" "Because I was scared. I thought maybe you were just really good at acting, that I was reading too much into little moments. I did not want to ruin what we had, even if it was fake." Jenny started laughing, which turned into crying, which turned into Daniel kissing her properly for the first time. Not a staged kiss for cameras or family. A real kiss, full of weeks of pent-up feeling and honesty. The truth comes out. They decided to tell Margaret the truth. It felt wrong to keep lying to her, especially now that their feelings were real. They sat in her living room on a Sunday afternoon, holding hands for real this time. Not for show. Jenny did most of the talking, explaining how it started, why they had done it, and how unexpectedly it had turned into something genuine. Margaret listened without interrupting, her face unreadable. When Jenny finished, there was a long silence. Finally, Margaret spoke. "I knew." "What?" Daniel and Jenny said in unison. "I knew from the beginning it was not entirely real, Jenny dear. That first day when I asked if you loved my grandson and you said not yet, I knew there was more to the story." She smiled at their shocked faces. "I am 83, not stupid. I have seen every trick, every scheme, every manipulation people try." "Then why did you play along?" Daniel asked, stunned. "Because I saw potential," Margaret said simply. "Good people trying to help each other, even if they were going about it in a roundabout way. And I saw the way you looked at each other when you thought no one was watching. Real love is not instantaneous, children. Is built day by day, choice by choice. And I watched you to build it." Jenny felt tears streaming down her face. "You are not angry?" "Angry? I am delighted." "Daniel, you found someone who loves you for who you are." "Jenny, you found someone who appreciates your strength and kindness. The fact that it started unconventionally makes it more interesting, not less valid." 6 months and beyond, the day that marked 6 months since their arrangement began. Daniel took Jenny back to the Riverside Grill. They sat at the same corner booth where they had first really talked, where this whole strange journey began. "According to our contract," Daniel said, pulling out a folded piece of paper, "today is the day we break up." Jenny's heart clenched, but Daniel was smiling. "However," he continued, "I would like to propose a contract modification." He got down on one knee right there in the restaurant, pulling out a small velvet box. "Jenny Hayes, will you marry me for real this time? No contracts, no time limits, no pretending. Just you and me, and whatever comes next." The entire restaurant had gone silent. Jenny could see Rachel peeking out from the kitchen, could see Tommy the head waiter filming on his phone. But all that mattered was Daniel's face, open and vulnerable and full of love. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying. "Yes, absolutely yes." The ring was perfect, simple, and elegant. As Daniel slipped it on her finger, the restaurant erupted in applause. Even some of the customers who had witnessed the wine incident 6 months ago were there, clapping and cheering. Later, at Daniel's penthouse, wrapped in his arms on the couch, Jenny marveled at how her life had changed. "What are you thinking?" Daniel asked, running his fingers through her hair. "That I spilled wine on the worst person possible and got the best outcome imaginable. Lucky spill then, the luckiest." Jenny tilted her head up to kiss him, though I do wonder what would have happened if I had spilled it on someone nice. Then I would have found another dramatic way to meet you. Fate has a sense of humor. The wedding was small, just family and close friends, held in Margaret's rose garden. Jenny wore a simple white dress. Daniel could not stop smiling, and when they said their vows, there was nothing fake about the promises they made. Margaret had been right. Love was not instantaneous. It was built, day by day, choice by choice. Jenny and Daniel had built theirs on an unusual foundation, but it was strong enough to last a lifetime, as they danced at their reception under string lights and stars. Jenny thought about that horrible day 6 months ago. The humiliation, the fear, the desperation. If someone had told her then that the handsome stranger who claimed her as his fiancé would actually become her husband, she would have thought they were crazy. But sometimes the craziest things turn out to be exactly what you need. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel whispered as they swayed together. "About how I am never spilling wine on anyone ever again. I have used up all my luck." Daniel laughed, the sound warm and familiar and home. "I do not know. Maybe lightning strikes twice. We could get another great story out of it. One dramatic beginning per lifetime is plenty. Thank you. Fair enough." He kissed her softly, though I have to say, "Mrs. Cross, you were worth every dramatic moment." "So were you, Mr. Cross. So were you." And as the party continued around them, as Margaret beamed from her chair and Linda dabbed happy tears from her eyes, as Rachel caught the bouquet and their friends celebrated, Jenny and Daniel held each other close and knew they had found something rare and precious. A love that started as pretend and became the most real thing in both their lives.